All right, let's dive into the hour of television that absolutely hooked the world. Winter is Coming, the very first episode of Game of Thrones. This isn't just an introduction to a story. It's a masterclass in setting the stage, where every single scene is carefully placing a piece on a very, very dangerous game board. These three words, they're the motto of House Stark, sure, but they are so much more than that. It's a literal warning about the weather, yeah, but it's also a promise. A promise of hardship, of death, and it's the theme that just hangs over this entire story from the very first minute. And man, the show does not mess around. It proves that warning matters right away. We don't start in some grand castle. We start in the freezing, forgotten lands north of the Wall. We're with three rangers from the Night's Watch, and they find a massacre. A bizarre, almost ritualistic killing of the wildlings. But the bodies are just the start of the horror. What they find isn't human. It's something else. A silent, blue-eyed creature from old nightmares just steps out of the snow. A White Walker. And in this terrifyingly quiet scene, it just dismantles two of the rangers. The lone survivor, he flees south, carrying a story so insane that nobody's going to believe him. In fact, it's going to get him labeled a deserter. And then we get this massive tonal whiplash. From that cold, supernatural terror, we're suddenly in Winterfell, the home of House Stark. Here, we meet a family that is all about honor, duty, and living in a pretty harsh land. It feels like a totally different world from what we just saw, but you get the feeling that that darkness has a way of finding people. So how do we meet the man in charge, Ned Stark? We meet him as he's about to deliver justice. See that survivor from the opening scene? He was caught. And for a man of the Night's Watch, deserting your post is a death sentence. And it's Ned himself who has to carry it out. A heavy job, but one he feels is his to do. And that one line right there tells you everything you need to know about Ned Stark's entire philosophy. He believes you have to look a man in the eyes and take responsibility for your actions. It's a code of honor he's drilling into his sons. It works for him up here in the north, but as we're about to find out, it's a really dangerous way to think when you're headed down south into a political snake pit. On their way home from the execution, they find something incredible. A dead direwolf, the actual sigil of their house, and her litter of pups. It's almost fate. There's exactly one pup for each of the Stark children. And then, set off to the side, Jon Snow, Ned's illegitimate son, finds a sixth pup. The runt of the litter, an albino, just as much of an outcast as he is. It's clear right away. Their destinies are tied to these animals. So just as we're getting to know and like the Starks, their entire world is turned upside down. The king himself arrives in Winterfell with this massive, massive entourage. And let's be clear, this is not a friendly social call. This is power and politics and danger, all rolling up to their front door, ready to drag them into the great game. Now, King Robert and Ned Stark, these guys go way back. They were like brothers, fought a whole rebellion together to take down the last king, the Mad King Targaryen. But the warrior Ned remembers is long gone. Robert has come all this way for one reason. He wants Ned to be his hand of the king, the second most powerful man in the kingdom. He needs Ned's help to rule. And you can't have the king without his in-laws, the Lannisters. They're the richest, most powerful, and probably most dangerous family in the whole kingdom. You've got the queen, Cersei, her twin brother Jaime, who got the lovely nickname Kingslayer, and their younger brother Tyrion, who is maybe the smartest one of the whole bunch. The second they show up, you can just feel the tension ratchet up. Ned wants absolutely nothing to do with this. He wants to stay in Winterfell. But then, a secret message completely changes the game. A letter arrives for his wife, Catelyn, revealing that the last hand of the king, Jon Arryn, didn't just die. He was murdered. And the letter points the finger straight at the Lannisters. Well, now, Ned has no choice. He has to go south. He has to protect his old friend, the king, and find out who's telling the truth. So, as Ned makes this life-altering decision, the episode brilliantly cuts between two other massive events. One is happening right there in Winterfell, where a terrible secret is about to come to light. And the other is happening all the way across the sea, where the last embers of a fallen empire are about to catch fire. Okay, quick geography check, because this is important. Westeros, where the Starks live, is like feudal Europe. Castles, knights, all that stuff. And magic is basically a fairy tale. But across the Narrow Sea is Essos, a land of wild nomadic tribes and ancient cities where strange things, and maybe magic, are starting to stir again. And it's over in Essos that we meet the last of the Targaryens, the children of the Mad King that Robert and Ned defeated. There's Viserys, this cruel, entitled brat who is obsessed with getting his throne back. And then there's his younger sister, Daenerys, who he treats as nothing more than a pawn in his game. So Viserys basically sells his sister. He marries her off to Khal Drogo, the leader of a massive horde of Dothraki warriors, in exchange for their army. And at her wedding, she gets a pretty weird gift: 3 petrified dragon eggs. They look like cool decorated rocks, but they are a huge symbol of the power her family once had, and maybe could have again. All right, now we jump back to Winterfell for the moment that changes everything. Little Bran Stark loves to climb. It's what he does. And he scrambles up this old, abandoned tower. But at the top, he sees something he was never, ever meant to see. Queen Cersei with her own twin brother, Jaime. And just like that, they see him. Bran is just frozen there, terrified, hanging on for dear life. And Jaime Lannister calmly walks over to the window, looks down at this little boy, and says 5 of the most chilling words in the entire series. And then he shoves him. He pushes a child out of a tower window. And the episode just cuts to black. That single act is the spark that's going to light the whole kingdom on fire. It leaves Bran's life, and really the fate of everyone, just hanging in the balance. So there you have it. By the end of this one episode, all the major pieces are on the board, and they are all moving. It's an incredible piece of television that sets up the characters, the world, and all the conflicts that are going to drive this story for years to come. Let's just recap where we're left hanging, because there's a lot. Ned is riding south, straight into a nest of liars and murderers. Bran is broken at the bottom of a tower, holding a secret that could destroy the royal family. Across the sea, a scared young girl is just starting to realize she might be a queen. And way, way up north, the one threat that nobody is paying attention to is waking up. The story starts with a simple warning and ends with the one question that defines the entire series. With the plots and conspiracies brewing in the south and literal monsters stirring in the north, the game has officially begun. The only question now is, who's going to be left